Does all this COVID-19 stuff have you stressed out? I know it does me. I've been stressed. And so I want to make a video about dealing with stress during the COVID-19 global pandemic. You know, the basic foundation of every human being is the need for safety and security. It's step one. It's the first thing that we have to feel secure in. If we're going to self-actualize, if we're going to manifest our highest potential, any of those things, we have to first meet those needs for safety and security. For a lot of us, especially those of us that live in Western developed nations, certainly those of us that are Americans like myself, we haven't really had to think much, not a lot, about our basic needs. We have decent health care, most of us. We have jobs or incomes, again, most of us. We have shelter, that kind of stuff. And there's so many things that we took for granted. Nevertheless, we all get stressed out and live stressful lives. All of us had stress before this started. Doesn't matter if it was stress with a job, stress with relationships, stress with a child, whatever it is, life can be stressful. And a lot of us were maybe not coping so well with the stress before all this started. And COVID-19, this global pandemic, has absolutely turned our worlds upside down. And it's caused us to re-examine and maybe our priorities, but also it's threatened our basic needs for safety and security. And I want to say again, if you are afraid right now, you're validated. There are some things you should be afraid of. Many of us are afraid. Some of us are afraid of catching the disease. We're afraid for our safety. Others of us are afraid about the economic downturns. I mean, it's the first time ever in our lives, most of us, that we've had to be afraid to go outside, that we've had to social distance, that we've had to be afraid of this invisible enemy that we may catch, and we don't know how it's going to affect us. We don't know if we might die or if people that we love might die. At the same time, we're watching our economy crash. We're watching a recession come around. We're watching businesses close. We're watching unemployment go up. There seems to be, in many cases, a lack of compassion and consideration and social cooperation. There seems to be, in many cases, perhaps a lack of leadership that can get us through this time. And so these are definitely stressful times. So I want to talk in this video about what can we do to manage our stress during COVID-19 or during this global pandemic. First thing I want to say is don't judge your fear. Don't sit there and think, oh my God, I'm in fear. I'm going to bring this thing on me. Don't let people judge you. It doesn't mean you're not spiritual. It doesn't mean that you're just stuck in your ego. All of that is bullshit and shaming. And you know what? There are times and seasons for everything. And fear is a basic survival mechanism that we all need to have. And this is a time when many people are afraid. If you're one of those that's so enlightened that you're not afraid, that's so enlightened that you've escaped your ego, I urge you, please be compassionate with other people who may not be where you are. It's good to know in order to serve and in order to be a compassionate and healing presence for people that maybe aren't as far along on the spiritual journey as you are. So, what do we do with this stress? We have the stress of the economy, like I mentioned. We have the stress of losing our independence, of our personal power, not being able to go out to eat or see our friends. Many of us who depend on touch for our expressions of love and affection, we can't greet our friends with a handshake or a hug. Some of us may be in situations where we can't even hug our children or our loved ones or our aging parents because we want to be responsible and we want to practice what we're being told to practice in order to be safe and healthy and sound. So it's a very, very stressful time. It's a very traumatic time. This is a global trauma. Many people are experiencing trauma right now. They're experiencing the trauma of fear for their life, fear of this disease. They're experiencing trauma because they've been unemployed, because they just don't know what's going to happen. And it can become a complex trauma. Complex trauma is different than a traumatic event. We can be traumatized by one traumatic event, but when that event won't go away and we keep waking up to the same reality, or we keep waking up to more and more bad news every day, then it can create a complex trauma. And I'm going to be honest with you, there have been some nights where I felt like the walls were closing in on me. There have been some times I've been worried about my children, worried about our financial well-being and welfare through all of this, wondering what the world's going to be like. And so I want to give you some tips to help you. The first one is if ever there was a time to engage in spiritual practices, now is the time. If you've been doing it, then you're prepared for this. If you haven't been doing it, if you did it at one time, but you haven't been doing it, now's the time to pick back up your disciplines and engage in spiritual work. And if you haven't done it at all, now's the time to get some tools in your tool belt. And so I want to talk about one really important one. It's talked about a lot. It's very basic. And that is the practice of mindfulness, or just being in the moment. See, for most of us, our worry and our anxiety carries on because we're wondering what our future is going to be like. And I want to say, I don't think any one of us knows. We don't know what this virus is going to do. The experts are telling us the data isn't in yet. We don't know that our lives will ever go back to normal, although I don't think that it will ever go back to the way it was after this. I think there will be a new normal that may emerge for us. Some of you may be in necessary industries or businesses. Some of you may be in healthcare where you have to face this, or your first responders, you have to face this. And I applaud you, and I want to thank you for your courage, and I want you to know that I am praying for you every single day that you're safe and that we can get through this. But it's all something that is affecting all of our lives. And the bottom line is, we don't know what the future is going to hold. So it does us no good to mentally step out into the future and borrow trouble. Realize if you've lost your income, if you can't make your payments on your mortgages or whatever, please realize there are steps that various different banks and entities are taking. Call your mortgage company, call your your utility company, see if they have any grace periods as we all get through this time, when they can maybe suspend your payments, or you pay interest only payments or something like that. But also realize, if that's not the case, you're not the only one, certainly not the only one that is in this. We are all in this together. So I hope you'll draw comfort from that. And so mindfulness is simply being aware of the present moment, being aware of what's in your consciousness at the present moment. So if you find yourself worrying too much, just sit down quietly, look around the room, notice what you see, and say it to yourself. Look around the room, notice the various different things that you're seeing, and then ask yourself, what am I not seeing? And let your awareness, your physical awareness of the present moment, expand. Do the same thing with all 5 of your senses. What am I feeling right now physically with my body? What am I seeing? I already did seeing. What am I hearing? Is there any smells or tastes that I'm having? Notice some things you wouldn't have noticed before. Notice that your body temperature differs in different places. Your feet might be colder than your midsection, or your face might be warmer than your feet. Notice things like that. Just let those things come into your awareness. If you find yourself worrying, just become the observer inside your own mind and notice how the worrier is working in your own mind. And notice that you have a consciousness, you have a place inside of you that is not the worrier, but is the observer. You have a place inside you that is not the imaginer of future events, but that is receiving those imaginations. Notice that there's a part of you that is not the talker inside your head. There is a part of you that's listening inside your head, and begin to practice identifying with the observer in all those things. Notice your breathing and take deep, long breaths. Be thankful. This thing's attacking our breath, right? It's a respiratory disease. So take deep, long breaths and be thankful for each breath, which leads me to the next spiritual practice, and that is the practice of gratitude. Think about all the things that we've taken for granted that now we realize we can't do anymore. We can't go to baseball games. We can't go to restaurants in some cases. We can't go to big gatherings. So many things that we took for granted that we weren't grateful for. So start practicing gratitude. Start a gratitude journal. Wake up in the morning and say, I'm thankful in this moment I'm healthy. Maybe tomorrow I won't be. Maybe next month I won't be. But in this moment, I'm healthy, if that's the case with you. At this moment, I'm alive. At this moment, I'm breathing. At this moment, I have awareness. At this moment, I have shelter. I have a family. I have the opportunity to watch YouTube. I have the opportunity to take this time when I'm in isolation and practice spiritual practices of solitude and prayer and meditation and engaging in those kinds of things and being thankful for that. Be thankful for social media. Be thankful for YouTube. Be thankful that you can connect. And realize that connection, that's the next thing. Connection is important. Some ways that you can stay connected, some ideas, have Zoom meetings. We did a Zoom happy hour last Friday with some family and friends, and it was wonderful. We all had our own beverages that we were imbibing, and we were on Zoom, and we were just fellowshipping and talking and enjoying one another's company. And it was very refreshing, and it helped some of us in that group to even shake off our depression. Don't wait around for somebody else to hold a party yourself, and be thankful that we have these ways that we can stay connected. And lastly, I guess I would say to practice the art of compassion. Practice being compassionate. Fear is one thing, but we shouldn't let fear dominate. I don't think we should judge fear. I don't think we should say that fear is bad. I don't think we should feel like we're unspiritual if we're afraid. I think we should listen to it. I think we should realize that fear is just a messenger that we need to listen to. We listen to our fears, and then we raise our vibration by coming out of fear and going into a place of wisdom. What does wisdom require right now? And I think, in agreement with a whole host of experts in the vast majority of our society, wisdom demands right now that we follow the social distancing, that we follow the protocols that are put in place for us, that we take advantage of whatever things we can to delay payments that we have to make, or whatever the case may be. That's going to be individual to each person. But instead of just feeling fear and reacting to fear, letting fear and panic dominate you, try asking yourself, what is the wise thing to do right now? What is the collective wisdom? What are the experts saying? And then ask the divine to fill you with wisdom and go off of your intuition as well. What is your intuition telling you? If your intuition is telling you don't go to the grocery store today, don't go to the grocery store that day. If your intuition tells you to up a certain herb that you've been taking, as long as you follow the instructions and check with your medical providers and all of that, then do that as well. Follow wise and safe practices, but let wisdom lead you, not fear. The other thing fear does is it leads to selfishness, and selfishness leads to hoarding. We've seen that, certainly, people hoarding all kinds of things. It'll be interesting, the psychological studies that come out as to why people were hoarding toilet paper. I'm really looking forward to looking into that one when that study's done. But practice compassion, practice feeling compassion. Think about your loved ones. Think about other people who are suffering, and let compassion rise up, and let compassion lead you. Maybe you're young and healthy. Maybe you have a strong immune system. Let compassion lead you. Maybe you're enlightened and you're not afraid. Let compassion lead you and be a support of strength, not judgment or shaming, for people who may be feeling afraid at this time. Let compassion lead you. And finally, use this time to reinvent yourself. Use this time to evaluate what's really important, to let life be put on pause for a while, to quit going through the same patterns and the same motions that have dictated the false self and who you've become. All the things that have triggered you and all your values. Take some time to sit down and reevaluate those things. What's important to you now may not be what was important to you yesterday, may not be what was important to you last month or last year. So use this time to reevaluate your priorities, to reevaluate yourself, and to reinvent yourself, so that when life does go off of pause, you can be the person that you want to be. You can be more authentic. You can be more real. You can be more connected to your higher self than ever. You can be the best expression of yourself that you've ever been. Use this time to develop new habits. Use this time to learn a new language, or to learn something new about yourself, learn something new about loved ones, learn something, just improve yourself in some way, shape, or form. Use this time constructively. And lastly, let's think about a future where this is in the past. Let's spend some time in our consciousness imagining the day that this will all be behind us, and we'll remember the fears that we had. We'll remember the steps that we took, but we'll be able to look back and think we made it. Listen, there's a future you out there in the quantum field that has already made it through this, that has already survived this, that has already overcome this. Connect with that future self and spend time in gratitude, feeling and thinking as if that's already a present reality. Not to the point that you act foolish, not to the point that you don't practice all the things we're being asked to practice, but setting aside time in your day to imagine that future, put yourself in that future you, and look back on this and say, wow, that was tough, but we made it through. Anyway, here's just a few suggestions to help you manage stress during this time. I hope it helps you. If you like this video or didn't, I hope you'll comment at the bottom. I hope that you will subscribe and hit the notification button. And again, whatever time this finds you, I hope you're doing okay, and I hope you're safe. And I hope, if nothing else, this video helped break the pattern of stress in your life for the few minutes that you watched it. Again, I'm Aaron Tomlinson. Thank you for watching this video. Hit subscribe, hit like, and hit the notification button. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless us all.